week 8 of the fantasy football season. And here's a few kickers I look to drop this week. The first guy, Brandon McManus of the Denver Broncos. So Brandon McManus, it's been an up and down season here for him. A couple good weeks, couple bad weeks, and now he's got a tough matchup, and then he goes on bye week in week 9. So right here, week 8, this ball game's in London, I believe, versus the Jacksonville Jaguars, and then a bye week in week 9. And this Denver Bronco offense, they just can't move the ball or get anything going. It looks like Russell Wilson, believe it or not, is going to come back in week 8, where I thought he would be out multiple weeks. But right here, they probably figured we'll hold him out in week 7, get him back, try to win before week 8, and then week 9. So right here, this offense inconsistent. The opportunities always haven't been there for Brandon McManus. It seems like this year the pattern's been 2 good games, 2 bad games, and then it all over with the 2 good games and bad games. Well, like I said, with a tough matchup versus the Jaguars, they give up the second least amount of fantasy points to kickers. And then the bye week here, there's no reason to hold on to McManus, and there's plenty of good options on the wire, like a Will Lutz or a Jason Myers if you want to replace McManus this week. The next guy, Brett Maher of the Dallas Cowboys. So Maher, he got off to a good start the first few weeks of the season, but now the numbers are tailed off, and he's another guy with a tough matchup versus the Bears in week 8 that give up the 7th least amount of fantasy points to kickers on the season. And then week 9 he goes on bye. So right here I would take an earlier shot at replacing Maher and getting a new kicker this week that you don't have to worry about the bye week in week 9 as well. So Maher, he was putting up points the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, but the last couple weeks here, week 6 at Philly, 5 fantasy points, and week 7 versus Detroit, 6. And this Cowboy team, they might start scoring more touchdowns with Prescott at quarterback than Cooper Rush. So now with that into play, with a tougher matchup versus the Bears in a bye in week 9, he's a kicker I would drop this week. And the third and final kicker I look to drop this week, Younghoe Koo of the Atlanta Falcons. So Younghoe Koo, another guy, got off to a hot start the first month of the season, but he's really tailed off the last 3 weeks here. And this Atlanta Falcon team, they just don't score the football a lot, and Marcus Mariota don't drive the ball down the field at all to give this team a chance to have a lot of red zone opportunities. So the last few games here for Koo, week 5 at Tampa 1, week 6 versus San Francisco 4, and week 7 in a great matchup at Cincinnati that gives up the most fantasy points to kickers on the season, only 6 fantasy points. So right here, week 8, another decent matchup versus the Panthers. But the inconsistencies, and not his fault, obviously. This Falcon team not having a lot of opportunities to score. He's a kicker I would drop this week. So that's a few kickers I would drop here for week 8 of the fantasy football season.